Hi everybody. I am going to show you how to create your own collaged self-portrait using the mask photo you all submitted. So in your folder at the front of the school, you will have gotten 2 transparencies. I'll have printed out your self-portrait in color as well as 2 in black and white. I'm using my black and white image as the base for what I am collaging onto. I'm going to reference my color image as I work so that I know what color needs to go where and what color I'm looking for when I am grabbing magazine pages to collage. So at home, you are to grab any magazine that you can get, and you're going to try and find colors that match areas of your project. So for my hat, I was looking for things with the color pink, and I have in my scarf. For my scarf, I was looking for just different blues and other areas. For my hair, I was looking for yellows for my blonde hair. Background, I chose to do a blue. And then my sweatshirt, I have to finish up over here and do some on my hoodie. Now, you'll notice, except for this section, I have gone over my entire project, so you will not see any of the border that has your project. I do not want to see any square edges, and if you can, also cover up your name at the top. So you'll see on your printouts that you'll have your name on it. Once you gather lots of pieces of paper and colors for your collage, you are going to start tearing and gluing down into the areas they go. If you wanted to, you also had the option to take a book from the cart, and on this book you could use it as black and white pages, or in this case kind of a creamy yellow page. I painted it with hot pink paint so that I could get the color I want for my hat. So you could do that if you want to. These are books from the language arts department several years ago, and instead of being recycled, they donated them to the art department, so now I use them for collages. So you're gonna do a little bit of back and forth. You'll see that I already finished my background, and now I have to go back in and kind of fix up the line of my hat, because my hat is a little bit wider up at the top in shape than I have here. So I'm going to move my magazine, and I'm going to use some of my book pages. Using a glue stick, I'm going to add plenty of glue to the area. It's okay if you see a little of that purple, because glue sticks, mine in the classroom at least, dry clear. And then I'm going to tear my paper to match the shape or the size. So you're going to tear your paper, if you can, on an angle. And I like to use small pieces at a time to achieve the shape and angle I am looking for. One thing I would like you to try and do is try not to use too many edge pieces. Tear off the edge pieces so that you see that kind of collage area. It just looks a little more interesting, and it shows that you made intentional decisions. So I'm going to finish with a little up here, and I'll be right back. Now that my hat is done, I want to go in and fix up the area of my hair where it overlaps my hoodie. So I have lots of these fun yellow colors from what looks like sugar or something. And I am going to use the same process to tear on an angle and glue down. Keep one thing in mind while you're working. I have my reference image always just off to the side so that I can take a look and always know where I'm working and where I should be placing my collage pieces. If you have pieces that stick up a little bit, don't worry too much because they're going to be covered up in the end with your clear acetate. But for now, I'm going over and adding a new layer of glue to some of the areas just to make sure that it's covered up. There's a chance I'm going to have to go back in with my hair in a little bit once I start my skin tone, but that's okay. I'm holding on to some of those collage pieces so that when I'm ready, I'll be able to dive back in. Now, I'm going to work on my face. This is going to be a little bit tricky because you have eyes, you have eyebrows, but by wearing a mask, you have a little bit less work to do. So I grabbed from a magazine lots of skin colors and just try to get as close as you can to your skin tone. It's okay if it's not perfect. If you have very light skin, you might want to pick colors that are going to be a little bit lighter. If you have darker skin, choose colors that match your darker skin tone. And I'm going to go through and do the same process where I collage around my eyes. I'm not worried about my eyelashes or the whites of my eyes just yet. If you need to, add more glue at any time. And I'm going to continue working on my face, and I'll be back. You might be wondering why I am using letters and scissors, and that is because on my photo, I am wearing a mask chain to keep my mask around my neck, and it spells out Mum's Art. So I wanted to use letters from the magazine to spell out my Mum's Art chain. Mum's Art, if you weren't sure, stands for Montgomery Upper Middle School Art. So I thought this would be a fun piece to make sure that I include. And my mask chain has black and white beads, so I chose this kind of funky black and white piece there. Now, you might notice that on my picture, you might be thinking, Mrs. Ennert, where did your eyebrows go? And that's a great question. But I'm actually not going to worry about drawing my eyebrows because I'm going to add them in with marker when I use my transparency and when I incorporate my transparency in a little bit. But before I get to that, I want to work on my eyes. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue and collage the whites of my eyes. And then I will add the blue because my eyes are blue. As always, I'm just trying to get as close to the shape as I can. It may not be perfect because remember, you're collaging, you're tearing paper, you're cutting small pieces. So this is going to be a tricky process. But these are going to look a lot nicer in a little bit when we start to go over with the acetate. I'm not done just yet though. I still have to work on my mask. So I have my black mask area unfinished, and I will finish that as well as my eyes and be right back. Now that my portrait is done, I added black and white images from a magazine for my mask area because I thought that looked really cool. I'm going to wait for this to dry. The glue stick won't take too long to dry, but it will take a few minutes. And then I'll be back to show you the clear acetate contour lines. So this will tie in the contour line drawing that we just completed. Now that my collage is done, I'm ready to add the contour lines to my self-portrait. So what you're gonna do is you can set your collage aside because you don't need this for this next step. And you're gonna pick up your transparency. So you can see my drawing done here. I have another version. You have two. So if you want to trial and error, you should be able to wipe off most of this, but you'll see that in a second. You'll have two in your folders. So if you make any mistakes, you have an extra, but one thing you can do is take, if you're using a Sharpie, take some hand sanitizer or isopropyl alcohol, and if you wipe it with a paper towel and kind of patiently wipe away, you should be able to erase any mistakes. Again, this is using a Sharpie and just some plain hand sanitizer or isopropyl alcohol. So in order to get started on my contour lines, you're gonna take one of your pieces of acetate or transparencies, then take your color photo or one of your black and white, whichever you prefer. I like to use paper clips to hold it in place so that as I'm working, I'm not worried about anything shifting. And then you can choose your supply. If you only have Sharpie on hand, you can use a Sharpie. Try to use a fine point Sharpie that has a chisel tip or kind of a thicker tip. Or if you have a paint pen, like a Posca pen handy, you could use that as well. I'm gonna try with my Posca pen, and then I will show you how my Sharpie looks. So the process is simple. You are tracing over the contour lines of your portrait. So using our previously learned knowledge, contour lines are really just an outline of an image or of an object. If you're using a Posca pen, try to not go over top of your line because it will smudge. And I'm just going over and adding some details, but not all. For my hair, I'm not coloring in every strand. Remember, contour line drawings have no shadow or value. So I'm just adding a few accent lines. I'm not gonna do anything with my background, so you can ignore and leave that out of your portrait. This is where I'm gonna add my eyebrows. Like I mentioned in a previous portion, as I was working, I didn't collage my eyebrows on. Each of your folders had a clip attached, so you can use that to make your life a little bit easier. Now that my lines are done, I am going to test it out with my collage and see how it looks together. I'll place it down. I see I have a few smudges, but that's okay. And I am very happy with how my portrait looks. If you're using a Sharpie, what you'll want to do is go over your line twice. So I'll show you quickly what it looks like with a Sharpie. Posca pen will give you a darker outline. It's like a paint pen, but you do not have to use a Posca pen. For my Sharpie, same process. Take my clip, clip them together so they don't shift, and then when I go over with my Sharpie, I'll show you with my mask line. I let it dry for a minute and work on another section. So when I say dry, it just needs a minute or two to settle before you'll be able to go over that area again. And it'll make a slightly deeper design. So you can see here with a white piece of paper underneath. It doesn't look too bad. This Sharpie actually did a pretty good job, but better safe than sorry. If you want to go over your design more than once, Just give it a moment to dry. So you'll see there. My lines look a little bit blue. Sharpie always kind of shows up a little bit blue. So like I mentioned, if you want to go over again, you're more than welcome to. And that's it. That's your whole project together with the collage portion. I can't wait to see what you create and turn in on Google Classroom, and I will see you in class.